Hello, friend. I know from the title of this video, you probably already have an idea of what I want to talk about. Maybe you've always been called the good kid, the one who never caused trouble, the one who always listened, the one teachers liked, the one relatives praised. And honestly, being a good person is a beautiful thing. But sometimes, carrying the label of being the good kid comes with a hidden pressure that almost nobody talks about. A pressure that slowly makes you forget who you really are. So, let's talk about it. First, let's understand what being the good kid actually means. Honestly, this can mean different things for different people. For some, it's the child who gets good grades. For others, it's the one who's respectful, disciplined, quiet, obedient, kind, or never argues with adults. Some people think the good kid is someone who always helps others, while others think it's the child who never causes trouble and always listens. So there isn't one perfect definition, but we all know the kind of person people are talking about. The child everyone trusts, the child everyone praises, the child everyone expects something from. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. The problem isn't becoming a good person. The problem begins when that label slowly becomes your identity. If I tell you about my own experience, I was one of those kids. Or maybe I still am in some ways. The funny thing is, I wasn't trying to become the good kid. I was simply being myself. I naturally got good grades. I respected people. I didn't create unnecessary problems. I listened to others. And because of that, teachers, relatives, neighbors, almost everyone would say, "She's such a good kid." Honestly, it felt nice, because who doesn't like being appreciated? I thought people liked me for who I was, and that made me happy. But as I grew older, something quietly changed. Those compliments didn't stay as compliments anymore. They slowly became an identity. Without even realizing it, I started feeling like I had to stay the same forever. I thought I always had to get good grades. I always had to be respectful. I always had to stay quiet. I always had to be the person everyone expected me to be. And honestly, that's where the real problem started. As I grew older, I realized there were some things I genuinely wanted to change about myself. I wanted to become more outspoken. I wanted to say no sometimes. I wanted to stand up for myself. I wanted to stop tolerating disrespect just because I wanted people to think I was a good kid. But every single time I wanted to do something outside that image, there was always this voice in my head saying, "Good kids don't do that." And honestly, that's when I realized that label had quietly become a prison. The problem was never being a good person. The problem was feeling like I wasn't allowed to be anything else. I started protecting my image more than protecting myself. Sometimes I tolerated disrespect because I thought reacting would make me look rude. Sometimes I stayed quiet even when I knew I should speak. Sometimes I stopped myself from trying things I genuinely wanted to do because I was scared people would judge me. It wasn't my personality anymore. It became my identity. And when something becomes your identity, you're constantly scared of losing it. The saddest part is that you slowly stop asking yourself what you actually want. Instead, you start asking yourself what people expect from you. You begin living according to a label instead of living according to your own values. And honestly, society rarely talks about this because being the good kid is considered a positive thing. People usually talk about the problems of being the bad kid, but almost nobody talks about the pressure of always trying to be perfect. Nobody talks about how exhausting it is to constantly protect an image. Nobody talks about how trapped it can make you feel. And there are also people who desperately try to become the good kid because they want attention, approval, or validation. But whether you're naturally that person or you're trying to become that person, the same lesson applies. Never build your identity around a label, because labels are temporary. You are not. One of the biggest lessons I learned from all of this is that other people's opinions should never become your identity. If someone thinks you're a good person, that's wonderful. If someone thinks you're a bad person, that doesn't automatically make it true either. At the end of the day, you know your intentions better than anyone else. Your job isn't to protect a label. Your job is to become the kind of person you genuinely want to be. Another lesson I learned is that being kind doesn't mean being silent. Being respectful doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Being a good person doesn't mean saying yes to everything. You're allowed to have opinions. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to disappoint people sometimes. You're allowed to grow into a different version of yourself, because growth often requires you to leave behind the version of yourself that other people became comfortable with, and that's completely okay. So from this whole video, I just want you to remember one thing. Don't become a prisoner of being the good kid. Be kind because it reflects your values. Be respectful because that's who you choose to be. Work hard because it helps you grow. But don't spend your entire life protecting a label that other people gave you. Because the goal was never to become the good kid. The goal was to become yourself. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.